someone did an email and they couldn't be here, so I was asked a question from someone who gave an email. Does they want to know, give a brief overview about the Afghanistan war? Well, you already talked about the stimulus packages, but and maybe a little bit of debate on the health care bill, because you know what plans have been voted on, of course.
Yeah, start with Afghanistan. Afghanistan originally was a war we could have won. Afghanistan as a nation was a much more unified society than Iraq ever was, and had we been able to put resources in it 7 or 8 years ago, we might have seen a very different outcome. At this particular point, we have men and women in the military that are stationed there at the very pointy end of the spear, and we need to protect them. We need to give them the resources they need to do the job. We need to be clear to them as to what that job is. If we are going to get into a war, we should recognize it as the absolute last resort of decision making, when all other things have failed. But we are in a war. We are there, and our national interests are at stake, and we can see good things happening if we win it. If we're in it, we must win it. So we need to give the troops on the ground the tools they need to go out and win this thing. We need to define that victory, and we need to create yet another little island of democracy in a world that really is still dominated by warlords and dictators. And so,
do you agree with what the president's saying about what he's not yet decided?
What is the president saying, by the way? Is the president saying something? No. The worst thing you can do is say we're all going to retreat tomorrow at 12 noon. All you're going to do is double your casualties, because the way you retreat is by bringing the cooks and the bottle washers out first and the war fighters out last, and it leaves them twisting in the wind. The best way to conclude a war is to win it. That's what we need to do. On the subject of health care, nobody's been talking about health care. They've been talking about health insurance. And what they have been talking about is adding another layer of overhead and bureaucracy on a system that's already burdened. There's been no talk that I've heard about changing the system for the better. I mean, I write business plans for a living, and the organizations that are created when they follow my business plans are created in strict accordance with some very hard rules, not the least of which, and perhaps the most important part of a business plan that I write, are the job descriptions. Here's what people do. Here are the behavioral objectives. You do this, and you are doing the job of production manager or salesperson or line supervisor or whatever. Now what we have is a situation where there are no standards of care for medical practitioners. We should get medical practitioners together and set up some standards of care. If we do that, and a physician or a caregiver can say that he or she is operating within those standards, then you have a legal position that probably cuts, you've done the tort reform. All of a sudden, you either are or you are not doing it right then. None of that's happening. Adverse reactions will always come, adverse outcomes. And so those conditions have to be, the treatment plans have to be reviewed on a routine basis. Now, I have been talking here for about 5 minutes about how we can make substantive changes in the healthcare delivery system in our country to lower its cost and increase its efficiency. I haven't heard any of that coming out of this. It's all about the money. Okay, you're going to get a $4,000 bill for cap and trade. You're going to get another $4,000 bill for this health care insurance if it passes. And my prediction is it will never see the light of day. It won't pass. The fact of the matter is, how many $4,000 bills can you pay over and above what you're paying now? We are spending too much for government, so in general, ladies and gentlemen, we have to raise up and use our voices to say, enough! Clean house. Thank you.
Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I am on record, and I will not vote for any measure that makes medical procedures in the clinical setting illegal. I'm sorry, we can't do that. If we say, okay, we're going to make abortion illegal in this country, 3 very bad things will happen. first thing is that politicians will start thumping their chest and thinking they did something when they didn't, because they'll just drive it underground. The second thing is we will make a two-class economy where one does not exist today, because anyone with the price of an airplane ticket can fly away and do what they please, and the government will not have, discharge its responsibility to the unborn. And the third thing is we will condemn people who are in that economic underclass to the back alleys. Let me put it to you this way. Life begins at conception. Abortion is the taking of a life. The first and most fundamental requirement of a government is to protect the lives of its citizens. We must eliminate abortion from the American experience. The question is, how are we going to do that? We are going to do that by a combined actual effort similar to the Stop Smoking effort. Now, you're going to say Stop Smoking effort has taken 30 or 40 years. Well, we're fighting against an addiction here. We need to do some things like adoption reform. We need to do a variety of educational and counseling things. We need to be able to make people understand how the human body works so that they can avoid unplanned pregnancies, and we need to give them an out that includes life when those pregnancies occur. That is leadership on the form of the government. Just simply saying you're a criminal, you can't do it in a hospital, it's going to drive it underground, and unfortunately that economic underclass is going to see a 2-for-1 special on death. We can stop it faster and more effectively. Folks, we can't legislate a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. Any of us who were reading the papers in the 50s and the 60s know that we can't legislate the end of abortion by simply making the procedures illegal in hospitals. We have to find a better and more effective way. I realize that's not what some people want to hear, but it is the only way that government is going to exert leadership and then really make abortion eliminated. It's not going to be eliminated the other way. I hope that answers your question.
That you were saying you're pro-choice in a roundabout way, really.
If you have to say, am I pro-life or pro-choice, I have to say pro-choice. But what we need to do is to make government get people to choose life. And we do that by leadership, not by slamming big doors shut and then walking away thinking we fixed the problem when we have.